to hear some of it over again, so we have it ingrained up here. Thank you, Mike.
Hey, I'm Mike Cartwright, and it's an honor to be here with you today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your patriotism. Thank you for helping to support our elections, local, state, and federal. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. If you think that a candidate for office should be transporting ballots for their own race, raise your hand. I didn't think so. If you think that a candidate for office should be counting their own votes, raise your hand. No, I don't think that way either, and neither is your other speaker. You're going to find out more about that. Why? Because we've got a problem with election integrity. Well, last time, in November of 2024, it was too big to rig. Remember? That's what we kept hearing. It was too big to rig, and it was. He won. But they tried. They tried to kill the vote. They tried to kill him. Did they not?
Yep.
And they're not going to stop. And we don't know that in the next 4 years what exactly is going to happen. So we can't wait on President Trump in Washington, D.C. We can't wait on this guy in Tallahassee. We don't know which way the wind's blowing about what he might decide to do, right?
Yep.
We know about this guy. That's America first. That's MAGA. That's Make America Great Again. So we're not really sure what's going to happen. So we have to not depend on Washington, D.C. and Trump. We cannot depend on Tallahassee and Governor DeSantis. We have to also take control of what we can. Well, location, location, location. Local, that's what I want you to start thinking about. Because is there a problem in our local elections? Did all of our candidates that we voted for win? Did Mara, Cruz, Lands win?
Yes.
Yeah, she did. She won on election day. Here in the red, she won on election day. And she won in early votings. But where did she get robbed? In the questionable yellow, she got robbed in the vote by mail.
Yeah.
Vote by mail, VBM. We're going to be talking about that a lot tonight, okay? Because that's where Cruz Lands lost that race in the vote by mail. You see the X there? I don't think that she really won that race. Well, wait a minute. Is that an anomaly? Or is there someone else? Well, look at Mr. John Balance, our property of appraiser. He won on election day. He won in early voting. Did he get robbed on vote by mail? How does he get almost 2-to-1 disparity, disproportionate in the vote by mail? Are Democrats the only one that do vote by mail? I'm over 60 years old right now. I didn't do vote by mail, and I know you guys are 39 again, right? Did anybody in here, this time around, did you do vote by mail? Raise your hand if you did vote by mail. I get it. There's some exceptions. There's a reason for it. God bless you. I understand that. But if you're not doing it, then who is? And that's one of the things we're going to talk about. Well, so it only happened twice, right? Well, no. What about this guy, our Supervisor of Elections? Remember we talked about he who counts the votes is the guy that matters, okay? Well, wait a minute. What happened here? He won on election day, didn't he? He won in early voting, didn't he? But where did he lose the race? Vote by mail. Did you guys know that, or am I preaching to the choir? You kind of suspected it, but did you know it?
Yes.
Well, it was almost similar with Rocky. Very important race against a longtime incumbent Democrat that we need to cast her out. Right? Well, what's happening here in his race? He was winning in early votings, wasn't he? It was close, but he won in early votings. And then she said, hey, we need to get everybody to show up on election day, because if I'm going to steal the vote by mail, I don't want to make it look really bad. But there it is again. That Democrat candidate also had twice as many vote by mails. Is it characteristic to where Democrats mostly want to do the vote by mail? Why is it disparate? Why is it not all people that have the justifiable reason to want to use vote by mail. There is something terribly the matter with our vote by mail. And I'm going to try and show you something that'll help clear this up. And I want you to pay real careful attention
The Facebook tab.
to the Facebook.
You were there. Go back to the browser.
Yep. Top center. Top center. No,
There.
go back. No,
That's
go
it.
back where you just were.
So that's it. How do we?
Go there. Top center.
Hey, Tim, Tiny Tim, the two-time guy, he's my tech support. He's the one that makes me look good. Thank you, Tim. Thank you.
Do you really trust your government anymore? They lied to the American people about the COVID shots being safe, and they said that masks would protect you from getting infected. They lied to the American people about the borders being secured, yet millions of immigrants continue to flow into our country without being vetted and are currently terrorizing and murdering Americans. They also lied about giving these immigrants state driver's licenses, which in most states also automatically registers them to vote. Are they getting ready to steal the next election again?
Yep.
The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, is denying states access to the immigration data so states cannot verify who is a citizen or not. Why would our government do this? The Department of Justice, DOJ, is suing local counties for trying to secure their election and add more oversight. Why would our government do this? The DOJ is also suing states for removing confirmed non-citizens from the voter roll. Why would our government do this? Whose side is our government on? Actions speak louder than words. Here is a hypothetical situation that is totally possible. The DHS has all the border crossers' driver's license data and thus the same information needed to vote. What if the government tells a non-citizen, you are not allowed to vote, and then use mail-in ballots in their name to elect Kamala, setting up the most blatant steal in American history? What if the government is intentionally giving identification cards so they can register to vote, but their identities are then stolen to vote with mail-in ballots? Yes, they would be engaging in ID theft, election interference, and treason, which is punishable by death. Why else would our government be acting like this?
Hey, so we saw from that video, we have some questions about vote by mail. Our work, our campaign, Save America from Illegal Immigration, is not just about the dangers of having terrorists, gangs, and robbers, rapists, and thieves amongst us. And we're not so much so hard that we don't believe that legal immigration should continue. But what part of illegal do these people not understand? What we're concerned about, as this tried to allude to, is that having illegals coming into our country and then trying to do the right thing or not, and registering to get a Florida identification card or a driver's license, now starts to get them into the federal government system to where they become more and more a citizen. Well, we want them to do it the right way, but we don't want them voting before they're supposed to. Well, we don't believe that 100% of the illegal immigrants that are here, well, wait a minute, how many is that? Is it 10 million? Is it 20 million? Is it 30 million? You heard the term gotaways. That's the ones that we counted. We don't know about the ones we didn't. We're not really sure. And that's going to be a problem for us because in the next 4 years, we can't get Trump reelected, so we have to get someone else. And we're not really sure that we're going to win that election. We're not even really sure that we're going to win the governor's election. Remember this guy here, Ron DeSantis? He just about lost to Andrew Gillum.
Yeah.
Do you remember what a disaster Mr. Andrew Gillum
Yep.
was?
Yep.
How bad that could have been for our state? Well, and look at us. We narrowly won that. And now Florida is the free state of Florida. We're leading the charge from much of the country on trying to take back, leading in America first. Look at the people we have that live here. Trump, Florida resident. He moved here. He liked it. He ran for president. DeSantis, he also ran for president. We are the tip of the spear. We are helping leading the charge. And that's why we need to continue pushing on. We need to have more election integrity. Well, wait a minute. How can you have that if you don't have the Office of Election Crimes and Security? Well, we do. Governor DeSantis started that up. What did he do right out of the bat? He arrested over 44 convicted felons who voted. And then they also went after illegal immigrants. And they were off to a good start. Office of Election Crimes and Security out of FDLE, out of Tallahassee. And who was heading that up? Mr. Pete Antonacci. Mr. Pete Antonacci. Does anybody know that name?
Yep.
And where's he at now? He's dead! Where did he die at? He died in this building. He died in this building. Who was he in a meeting with? Well, he was in a meeting with the Secretary of State Court Byrd. He was in a meeting with our governor, Ron DeSantis, and some other people, and they were talking about election integrity. He got so upset, they said, he went out into the hallway and he died. And the most secure state building in our state didn't discover the dead body in the hallway where the cameras were not working. You ever heard that?
Yeah.
Where the cameras weren't working for nearly 30 minutes. He was dead. He was DOA. He was gone. How convenient. What do you hear now about the Office of Election Crimes and Security? Has anybody heard about them? Read them in the newspaper? Read about the latest? Zero. Nada. Nada. That's Espanol. Okay, I'm having to learn how to speak Spanish. So that's why my good friend Tim and I were working on illegal immigration, and before Trump came in, we identified that there were 45 counties that were not enforcing the ICE 287G, which was stop the revolving door policy of the catch and release of illegal arrested immigrants, aliens, back into our community. That's crazy. They broke the law coming across the border, and now they break the law in your local jail. How foolish were these other blue 21 counties putting those illegals back into our community? That's what they were doing. That's what we were working on to try and identify. And look at the pockets. Look at the sanctuary areas. Everybody know? That's Pasco and Hillsborough. Before Trump came along, our sheriff was not enforcing that. He was putting those people back into our community. He wasn't telling you. Look at what's happening down in Palm Beach and Miami. Look what was happening down there. When was the last time you've been down there? We need to send someone to bring back the American flag. You ever heard that? You go down there, 50% of the population doesn't speak the same language that you do. Look at this pocket right up around Tallahassee. Look over here at Orlando, Orange County. What kind of problems have we had in Orange County? They had a Democrat, a state attorney. Governor DeSantis had to get rid of them. Same thing happened with our Democrat state attorney. They didn't want to enforce those laws. They were part of over 70 George Soros funded state attorneys that were put into office. And George Soros wasn't doing it to make America great again. He wasn't doing it to make Hillsborough County great again. He was doing it for all the wrong reasons. Well, why?
Quick question.
Yeah,
I
yes.
know Soros, I know who Soros is, but I didn't realize he funds things all over the country. Tell me where he operates. I thought it was New York.
Where does he operate out of New York?
Yes.
I don't know the address.
No, I just mean like he's funding Florida governors. I mean Florida DAs.
He picks particularly what we've identified as metropolis areas that are prime for leadership roles, and he funds those state attorneys' office to get elected. That's why
Regardless of state, so
Andrew
across the country.
Gillum
Okay.
was able to run for office again. That and not get reelected, but that's why the Orange County SAO ran for the election. She won. So now about to ground zero with her, and that may become a problem. So the illegal immigrants, where are the border states? Are those border states just along the southwest border? Are they, or they're all over? All 50 states are border states. They were flying them in. We're going to have Q&A at the end of the period, and please hold it. And I apologize because I've got a limited amount of time. And I appreciate the questions and the interest and stuff. Oh, so 71% of illegal immigrants are being put into Republican congressional districts. They're trying to turn us from red to purple to blue. And what happens is that with the census, remember the census in 2020 and the census in 2010? They go out and they count everybody. How many people in the house? They don't ask, always like, are you legal or illegal? That's why some of those people didn't want to answer the door. They're getting a count, and the more count that they get, then that means the more resources that can be sent here federally, but also the more representatives, the more congressional people. And that's not really a winning program for our republic. Remember what they said about our republic, it's a republic if you can keep it. Benjamin Franklin in the 1700s having just written our Constitution, and that's the problem that we're having, and we need to get back to those constitutional values because they're trying to turn this into a democracy. A democracy is there's a majority of people and they want my bike. It's my bike, but a majority of people want my bike. Well, you can't have my bike. Well, there's more of us and we're going to take it from you. That's a democracy. A republic says I own that property and I have rights to it, and there's a system that's set up to defend that. So what we want to do is show is that there is a machine of distrust, and it runs from top to bottom. I talked about DC, I talked about Tallahassee. Well, what's going on? What is the problem? Well, I hope that this will help explain.
You're at their top right.
Top right.
That one. There you go.
Thanks. You just can't stop Athens from backing justice and fairness.
After years of brutal conflict, World War II vets just wanted to enjoy life with their families. Unfortunately for the good people of Athens, Tennessee, while vets fought fascism, the McMinn County Sheriff ruled like a tyrant. His stormtrooper deputies arrested and jailed citizens, guilty or not, collecting fees for each person they detained. Returning vets, flush with cash, became prime targets for the sheriff and his deputies, who arrested and beat them to extort money. Fed up, the veterans took peaceful action, forming their own party to challenge the corrupt regime. On election day, tensions escalated when a deputy arrested a GI Party rep and shot an elderly black farmer trying to vote. The vets had enough of the nonsense and put their military skills to work, storming the polling station like the beaches of Normandy. While rescuing the farmer, firefights broke out. Deputies retreated to the jail with ballot boxes and captured vets. Veterans seized the National Guard armory, set up defensive machine gun positions, and stormed the jail. After the deputies surrendered and the ballot boxes were secured, all weapons were cleaned and returned to the National Guard before breakfast.
Anybody familiar with that story?
Yeah.
Battle of Athens, 1946, World War II veterans, most all Republicans.
It still amazes me how many people don't know
Goodbye.
that the Second Amendment
Goodbye.
has nothing to do with hunting. Truth be told, the Second
Yeah,
Amendment was a low-key threat
Stop.
to not only
Pause. There you go.
Ghost in the machine, more work. Well, all those deputies, they went to jail. Do not collect $200, go directly to jail. That's all of that sheriff, that Democrat sheriff who had ruled for 10 years. And you know what they were doing? Is that he would be the sheriff for a while, and then he would trade off, and then he would become a representative, and someone else would take the sheriff's spot. And then when he had run out his term limits, then he would come back and run sheriff, and that other fellow would go and be the representative. They had a monopoly, they had a power, and one of the things that they were doing is they were stealing the vote. They were actually doing paper ballots at that time, and these veterans knew that there was a problem when they left to go off to the war, and they saw that it was even worse, and they wanted to have a fair election. So on that day of the election, one farmer went to vote and he got beat up. A black man went to vote and he got killed. At the end of the day, the sheriff was going to take the ballot boxes from the different precincts to his office, and they said, no, we want those ballots. We want to count, because they had already wrote to the governor and wrote to the attorney general, and they turned their back on it. So they took matters into their own hand. And I'm not encouraging you to do that yet, because that's wrong that we have sheriff and other officers allowed in the polling place, because we know that that could be a negative influence. And I'm going to show you more. I just don't know where
Go
this
back to
thing's
PowerPoint.
going.
Yeah.
There's
Go back and touch the PowerPoint. There.
So, so here it shows that that if you have a law enforcement officer and he's not in there with a just cause, that's a problem. And I'm going to make a point of that, and this is the foreshadowing. I'm building up to it because, you know, you guys will look, what's the point? What are you doing here? And that official conduct, misconduct under statute Florida 838.022 shows that it's a third-degree felony if someone is misusing their authority, particularly for something as important as the votes. So that's what someone did. A great group of the Pinellas Watchdogs. They have a great little group over there. If you are or were a member of the Pinellas Watchdogs, please raise your hand. God, there. Thank you very much. Some of them are here with us because they're helping to lead the charge. They're doing a pretty good job about trying to bring attention to election integrity. They helped identify a candidate because they saw that there was a problem in Pinellas County with their sheriff having his hands on the vote. Remember at the beginning we said, hey, if you're running for office, should you be transporting or in charge of counting the votes? No, you should not. Well, this is Pinellas County Sheriff's Office at the SOE, and they were picking up and transporting ballots for the election. And the incumbent, Sheriff Galtieri, was up for re-election. Wow, he got re-elected. What a surprise. So here shows some of the operation coming in and out of their jail, and
It's not gonna play.
it's not going to play. So the Pinellas Watchdogs and some of the other patriots here in America, or particularly the state of Florida, started identifying candidates for Supervisor of Elections. Because if we don't have integrity at our elections, we're not going to have integrity throughout many of our other offices if we don't get we the people to get that vote counted. So they identified 13 candidates. Initially it was 11, and those candidates are right here. Here's 11 of them, and these are Republicans that challenge oftentimes either the sitting Democrat or the sitting Republican, because they saw that there was a problem going on in their own elections. And so one of those candidates is someone that was identified to be one of your speakers tonight. And what he started doing is that he saw problems with the election. So he tried to do public records requests. We all know what that is, right? FOIA, FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. That's where we, the people, have the right to get the public records. Now, unless it's an active investigation or somehow classified information, then we understand that there may be some reasons for that. Well, let's see what one of these candidates for Pinellas did when he tried to do a public records request for Pinellas County to find out about the transport of the ballots by the sheriff. He did a FOIA, he did a public records request, and this is what he got.
None yet.
Does that surprise anyone?
Yeah, everything's, yeah, has anybody ever seen, redacted or whatever? And we understand sometimes that, no, not, if you're redacting too much, what are you hiding? If you won and your candidates won, what have you got to hide? So that's why we need to find better candidates. And so that's why I'm going to soon be introducing you here to someone that took up the challenge and they ran for office. They announced themselves, and I hope he gets to tell you who helped talk him into running for office, because when they did, he explained to me that if I run for office, I'll have standing. Standing is when you have a vested interest in that race. It's one thing if we're out here, we go, I'm gonna sue the sheriff and I'm gonna sue the supervisor of election. Well, if you weren't a candidate in that race, then you don't have standing. So that's what this patriot did. He went ahead and he took up the challenge and he made a press release, and we all gathered there in Pinellas, and he announced his candidacy.